The glossy brochure slid across my dining table like a death sentence. Pinewood Meadows Assisted Living. My daughter thought I'd lost my mind. I wasn't losing my mind. Someone was stealing it from me, pill by pill, lie by lie. But what they didn't know was that I'd spent 32 years hunting financial predators, and I was about to catch my biggest one yet. The candles on my birthday cake flickered in the dim light of my dining room. 65 tiny flames. Monica had baked it herself. Chocolate, my favorite. Lachlan sat beside her, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. My son-in-law, the nurse practitioner who'd moved in 6 months ago to help around the house. "Make a wish, Mom," Monica said. Her voice cracked slightly. I closed my eyes and wished for the truth. When I opened them, that's when she did it. The brochure appeared from her purse like evidence at a trial. Glossy, professional. Pinewood Meadows Assisted Living. Smiling, silver-haired models on the cover, pretending to be happy about losing their independence. "Mom, we need to talk." Monica's eyes were wet. Lachlan squeezed her shoulder, supportive, concerned, rehearsed. My hands found the edge of the table, steady, calm. "Don't react. We're worried about you," Lachlan said. His voice had that clinical softness they teach in medical school, the tone that says, "I know better than you." "The bills you've forgotten, the money you sent to that electric company twice, the email scam last week, the Nigerian prince. I'd supposedly tried to wire money to a fake royal, except I hadn't, but telling them that would sound exactly like denial, exactly like confusion, exactly like what they expected. "I don't understand," I said. Let my voice shake. Let them think I was afraid. I was afraid, just not for the reasons they thought. Monica reached across the table. "It's okay, Mom. We're going to take care of you. Lachlan's been keeping track of everything. He's documented episodes," Lachlan finished. "Cognitive inconsistencies. It's very common at your age, Adeline. Nothing to be ashamed of." Nothing to be ashamed of. The phrase hit me like a slap. I'd spent 3 decades at Wells Fargo Corporate Risk Management tracking wire fraud, identity theft, elder financial exploitation. I'd testified in federal court 17 times. I'd helped recover $14 million in stolen assets. I'd written the training manual half the banks in North Carolina used to spot financial predators. And my own family thought I was losing my mind. The small recorder in my cardigan pocket pressed against my ribs. Matilda from church had warned me 3 weeks ago. "Something's not right about that man," she'd whispered. So I'd bought the recorder, started documenting everything. "I need to use the restroom," I said, pushed back from the table slowly, unsteady, confused, the role they expected. I climbed the stairs to my bathroom, locked the door. My hands didn't shake anymore. I excused myself to the bathroom, hand clutching the small recorder hidden in my cardigan pocket. What I was about to hear would destroy my family, or save my life. My bathroom door clicked shut. Downstairs, my daughter and son-in-law thought they were alone. They were wrong. I sat on the closed toilet lid and pulled out the recorder. The display showed 23 minutes of recording time. I pressed play and held it close to my ear, dishes clattering. Monica's voice muffled. "Do you think she understood?" Lachlan's reply came through clear and cold. "Doesn't matter if she understood. What matters is what we can prove in court." My chest tightened. "I hate this." Monica was crying now. "She's my mother. What if we're wrong?" "We're not wrong." Lachlan's voice shifted, harder, clinical. "Listen, Monica, I've shown you the bank statements, the duplicate payments, the scam emails. Your mother tried to wire $8,000 to her electric company twice in 1 week. She doesn't remember doing it. Because I didn't do it. But the recording captured something else. Something in his voice. Confidence. The tone of someone who'd said these exact words before. "Mom's getting worse," Monica said. "She tried to mail a check to a cruise ship scam yesterday. Maybe you're right about the dementia." Silence. Then Lachlan's voice dropped lower. I turned up the volume. The Ambien microdoses are working perfectly. Another month and we'll have full guardianship. The house appraises at $340,000. Plus, she's got a $127,000 liquid and a pension worth $380,000 present value. We split it 60-40 like we agreed. The world tilted. I rewound it, played it again. The Ambien microdoses are working perfectly. My hands started shaking, not from fear, from rage. Monica's voice. What if someone questions it? What if Mom fights back? Lachlan laughed, actually laughed. She won't remember enough to fight. That's the beauty of chemical cognitive impairment. By the time we file for guardianship, she'll be so confused, she won't even understand what's happening. And if she tries to protest, it'll just look like more evidence of her decline. What about her friends? Her old colleagues? Already handled. I've been mentioning her confusion to everyone who visits, planting seeds. They're all expecting this. When we move forward, it'll seem like the merciful thing to do. I stopped the recording, sat in my bathroom, birthday cake downstairs, my daughter crying, my son-in-law calculating my net worth like I was already dead. But here's what Lachlan didn't know, what Monica didn't know, what nobody knew yet. I rewound the recording 3 times, cataloging every detail. Lachlan had made his first mistake. He'd confessed to drugging me, but I'd caught something else in his voice, the confidence of someone who'd done this before. I didn't sleep that night. I did what I'd done for 3 decades at Wells Fargo. I built a case file. My home office at 2:47 a.m., desk lamp casting shadows across printed bank statements, medical records spread across the floor, my old fraud investigation notebook stacked beside my laptop. The coffee was cold, but I didn't care. Lachlan thought he was clever. He wasn't. He was predictable. I started with the duplicate electric payment. $8,000. Monica said I'd paid it twice by accident. But when I pulled up my online banking history, something jumped out. The first payment was processed at 11:47 p.m. on April 17th. I was asleep at 11:47 p.m. on April 17th. I'd been asleep by 10 p.m. every night for 5 years. I cross-referenced the timestamp with my phone's location data. Home, asleep. So who made that payment? I opened the command terminal on my laptop. The forensic software I'd kept from Wells Fargo, technically retired but never deactivated, launched with a familiar glow. I ran a device access log on my online banking. 47 unauthorized login attempts, all successful, all from the same IP address. I traced it. Lachlan's phone, next the Nigerian prince email. I'd supposedly responded to it, nearly wiring $15,000 to a fake account. Except I'd never seen the email before Lachlan showed it to Monica. I checked the source IP address, sent from inside my house, from my laptop, at 3:22 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was at a dentist appointment at 3:22 p.m. that Tuesday. Lachlan had been home alone, my laptop. The virus scan he'd run in April when my computer was acting slow. I opened the system files and searched for recent installations. There. Keylogger software, installed April 9th, the same day as Lachlan's virus scan. Every password I'd typed since April, every bank login, every email, every financial transaction, all recorded, all sent to Lachlan's email address. The pattern snapped into focus like crime scene photos under fluorescent light. This wasn't opportunistic theft. This was systematic predation. I pulled my 2019 case notes, the $2.3 million fraud case I'd helped prosecute, predatory competency undermining. The defendant had targeted elderly clients, deliberately creating confusion, manufacturing mistakes, building a paper trail of cognitive decline to justify taking control of their assets. Lachlan had studied the playbook. He was running the exact same scheme. But something nagged at me, the confidence in his voice on that recording. The way he'd said, working perfectly, like he'd done this before, like he knew exactly how long each phase would take. I opened a new browser window. Accessed the fraud databases I technically shouldn't still have access to. Searched Lachlan Graves, nurse practitioner, 5 states, 3 results appeared, 3 obituaries. Camilla Rossi, 71, died in Raleigh. Cause of death: dementia complications. Iris Bennett, 68, died in Asheville. Cause of death: heart failure secondary to cognitive decline. Valeria Fuentes, 73, died in Greenville. Cause of death: natural causes related to Alzheimer's disease. All 3 had been under the care of a traveling nurse practitioner in the months before their deaths. All 3 had been alone, confused, isolated from family. All 3 had died within 18 months of Lachlan entering their lives. By dawn, I had proof Lachlan was drugging me and stealing from me. But when I searched his name against fraud databases I still had access to, I found something that stopped my heart. 3 obituaries, 3 elderly women, 3 natural deaths from dementia complications, all within 2 years of Lachlan entering their lives. Camilla Rossi, 71, died in Raleigh. Iris Bennett, 68, in Asheville. Valeria Fuentes, 73, in Greenville. All alone, all confused, all dead within 18 months of meeting a helpful nurse practitioner named Lachlan. I printed the obituaries, stared at their faces. Somebody's mother, somebody's grandmother, somebody who'd worked their whole life, saved money, planned for retirement, gone. And Lachlan had moved on to me. I picked up my phone at 6:47 a.m. The number was still in my contacts, FBI Charlotte Field Office. Special Agent Darnell Hughes. We'd worked together on the 2019 case. He specialized in elder financial crimes. Hughes, his voice was rough. Early morning. Darnell, it's Adeline Monroe. Pause. Adeline, haven't heard from you since you retired. Everything okay? No, I need to meet with you today. I have evidence of serial elder financial exploitation with possible homicide connections. Homicide? Adeline, if this is a family dispute, 3 women are dead. My son-in-law drugged me for 6 months while staging cognitive decline to steal $850,000 in assets. I have recordings, forensic evidence, and transaction pattern analysis that matches methodology from our 2019 case. This is federal wire fraud, identity theft, and organized financial crime. I need you to listen. His office at 9:30 a.m. Hughes looked older, grayer. But his eyes sharpened when I laid out the evidence across his conference table. The recording of Lachlan confessing to drugging me, the keylogger data showing 47 unauthorized banking access points, the transaction analysis showing identical patterns across 4 victims, including me, the 3 obituaries with Lachlan's employment records showing he'd worked in each city at the exact time of their deaths. Hughes studied the documents in silence, picked up Camilla Rossi's death certificate. Who was the attending physician? I slid another document across the table. Dr. Miles Corbin, neurologist. He's the one who diagnosed me with early-onset Alzheimer's after a 15-minute evaluation Lachlan scheduled. When was that evaluation? 3 weeks ago, right before Monica started talking about assisted living. Hughes opened his laptop, ran a search. His jaw tightened. Corbin performed neurological evaluations on 17 elderly patients in the last 2 years, all short appointments. All resulted in dementia diagnoses. All patients had financial guardianship petitions filed within 90 days. He's part of it, I said. The network. Network? Hughes looked up. I pulled Lachlan's employment history. I'd obtained it through channels I probably shouldn't admit to using. Traveling nurse practitioner contracts. 5 states, always short-term placements, always home health care for elderly patients. Never stays anywhere longer than 8 months. Hughes leaned back. This isn't opportunistic theft. This is a systematic operation. There's more. I opened my laptop. Showed him the blockchain analysis I'd run overnight. Lachlan moved money through cryptocurrency wallets. I traced 180,000 of my own assets through 3 digital wallets to an exchange account registered to someone named Silas Romano. The Romano account has processed 1.8 million in the last 2 years, all in small transfers, all from elderly individuals across 5 states. Hughes stared at the screen. You traced cryptocurrency transactions? I spent 5 years tracking crypto-enabled fraud schemes before I retired. This is textbook laundering, small amounts, multiple wallets, quick conversions. The network splits proceeds digitally to avoid traditional banking oversight. How many victims are we talking about? Based on transaction patterns, at least 14 active targets. Probably more we haven't identified yet. Hughes reached for his phone. Ms. Monroe, we need to move fast. If Lachlan realizes you're investigating, he'll either disappear or accelerate his timeline. He paused. You understand what accelerate means? I did. It meant making me disappear permanently, 72 hours. That's how long I had to pretend everything was normal while federal agents built their case. 72 hours of drinking coffee Lachlan handed me, smiling while my daughter discussed nursing homes, acting confused on cue. I wore a wire, tiny device taped between my shoulder blades. Agent Hughes gave it to me with instructions. Keep Lachlan talking. Document everything. Don't do anything that might alert him. So I played the part. Day 1. Morning coffee. Lachlan crushed something into the cup while standing at the counter. I watched his reflection in the kitchen window. White powder, dissolved quickly. He stirred it with care, brought it to me with a smile. Here you go, Adeline, extra cream, just how you like it. I took it, thanked him, waited until he left the room, poured it down the sink, rinsed the cup, made fresh coffee. The wire caught everything. Day 2. Monica on the phone with a friend in the living room. I sat in my chair pretending to read. The wire recorded her voice. I don't know what to do. Mom tried to mail a check to a cruise ship scam yesterday. Lachlan had to intercept it. She's declining so fast, the doctor says we need to consider full-time care. I hadn't tried to mail any check, but Monica believed she'd seen it because Lachlan had shown her. Just like he'd shown her the bank statements, the emails, the evidence. Day 3, the hardest part. Pretending to be confused about my own address when the mail carrier asked. Lachlan was watching from the window. I stumbled over the house number, looked uncertain. The mail carrier gave me a concerned look. Lachlan documented it in his journal. I know because I photographed the page later while he showered. Detailed notes. Subject showing increased geographic disorientation, unable to recall home address of 23 years, recommending accelerated guardianship filing. The wire recorded Lachlan's phone call on the 3rd night. I was supposedly asleep. He stood in the hallway outside my bedroom. Timeline moved to next month. Subject is progressing faster than expected. Cognitive decline documented sufficiently for court. Estimated asset recovery $850,000 total after liquidation. Everything's on schedule. Morning of day 4, 6 hours a.m., pounding on the front door. FBI, search warrant! Monica screamed, ran downstairs in her bathrobe. Lachlan froze at the kitchen table, coffee cup halfway to his mouth. I stayed in my bedroom, listened to the chaos below. Agents entering, Monica crying. What's happening? There must be a mistake. Lachlan's voice, calm, too calm. There's been some kind of misunderstanding. My mother-in-law has been experiencing cognitive issues. We've been trying to help. Sir, put your hands where we can see them. They found it all. The target portfolio on his laptop. 14 files, 14 elderly people. Photos of their homes, financial profiles, asset breakdowns, medication schedules. Timelines labeled Cognitive Decline Induction. As agents carried boxes of evidence from Lachlan's room, I saw him mouth 2 words at me across the foyer. You knew. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The look in his eyes told me everything. He knew he'd been caught by someone better at his own game. The target portfolio contained more than victims. It contained business partners, FBI Charlotte field office, conference room with no windows. The walls were covered with faces, 14 elderly people staring back at me from photos Lachlan had taken without their knowledge. Below each face, home addresses, bank balances, medication lists, family vulnerabilities. Agent Hughes stood beside a whiteboard covered with names and lines connecting them like a web. I sat across from him, Monica beside me. She'd asked to come. Needed to understand the full scope of what Lachlan had built. "This isn't just Lachlan," Hughes said. He tapped the board. "This is an organized criminal enterprise operating across 5 states for at least 3 years. The structure was clinical, professional, terrifying. Lachlan Graves, field operator. Nurse practitioner credentials gave him access to elderly patients. Built trust, induced confusion, documented decline. Dr. Miles Corbin, medical validator, provided fraudulent dementia diagnoses after 15-minute evaluations. 15% commission on every successful guardianship. Linda Brennan, court facilitator. Attorney specializing in emergency guardianships, filed petitions citing immediate danger to vulnerable adults, never lost a case. Silas and Lena Romano, financial processors, cryptocurrency experts, laundered stolen assets through 17 digital wallets, making the money nearly impossible to trace. 2 more names on the board remained blank, still under investigation. The operation method was a 10-step system. Field operators like Lachlan identified targets through healthcare placements. Chemical cognitive impairment got induced through Ambien and benzodiazepines in microdoses. Manufactured decline got documented through journals, photos, witness statements. Dr. Corbin provided diagnosis after brief evaluation. Linda Brennan filed emergency guardianship petition. Assets got liquidated quickly through shell companies. Proceeds converted to cryptocurrency. The Romano couple laundered funds through multiple wallets. Split according to pre-agreed percentages. Operator moved to next state, next victim. Clean, efficient, repeatable. "How much?" Monica whispered. 1.8 million traced so far, Hughes said. Probably more we haven't found. This was where my expertise mattered. 5 years tracking crypto-enabled fraud schemes at Wells Fargo, 2017 through 2022. I'd written detection protocols, trained analysts, testified in cases exactly like this. I pulled my laptop from my bag. "Let me see the wallet addresses." Hughes slid me a document. 17 cryptocurrency wallets, small transfers, quick conversions, classic laundering pattern. I ran the blockchain analysis tools I'd developed, tracked the flow, watched $180,000 of my own money move through 3 wallets before landing in Silas Romano's exchange account. The timestamps match Lachlan's timeline perfectly. 47 victims, Hughes said quietly, most still alive but financially devastated. 3 deceased, Camilla, Iris, Valeria. Their faces were on the wall, too. Hughes turned to me. "Ms. Monroe, you were targeted specifically because of your professional background. Lachlan researched you for months before applying for that home care position. You represented the ultimate challenge, a high-value target with the exact skills to catch him. He thought retiring meant you'd lost your edge." The words hit hard. Lachlan hadn't stumbled into my life. He'd chosen me, studied me, decided I was worth the risk. Monica made a sound beside me. Pain. Guilt. Hughes reached for a folder. "There's something else you need to hear." He pressed play on a recording device. Lachlan's voice. "Monica's the easy part. Feed her anxiety about her mother's aging. Show her forged statements. She wants to believe Adeline is declining because it's easier than accepting her mother's getting older, and she can't stop it. Daughters are always the best leverage. They feel guilty for not being perfect caregivers." Monica's face went white. Another voice, unfamiliar. "What if she questions you?" Lachlan laughed. "She won't. I'm a medical professional. I'm sleeping with her. She trusts me completely. By the time she realizes what's happening, Adeline will be locked away and the money will be gone. Monica was never a co-conspirator. She's just another tool. Monica stood abruptly, left the room. I heard her footsteps in the hallway, then crying. Hughes stopped the recording. "Ms. Monroe, we need you to testify, but there's something else." He slid a photo across the table, security camera footage from my street. Time stamped 2 nights ago. A dark sedan parked 4 houses down, someone in the driver's seat, watching. "These people don't stop because they're caught," Hughes said. "They have contingency plans, and you've become a threat." They brought Lachlan to an interrogation room with a 2-way mirror. Agent Hughes asked if I wanted to watch. I said no. I wanted to sit across from him. The room was sterile, cold, metal table bolted to the floor. Lachlan sat handcuffed, wearing an orange jumpsuit that made his skin look gray. His lawyer sat beside him, silent and expensive looking. When I walked in with Agent Hughes, Lachlan's face changed. The polished mask cracked. He'd expected to see confused, fragile Adeline. Instead, he got the woman who'd spent 32 years dismantling people exactly like him. "Adeline, there's been a misunderstanding." Lachlan tried his soft voice, the one that had comforted Monica. "I was trying to help you. Monica was so worried." Transaction ID 4478293, April 17th, 11:47 p.m. I cut him off. Opened my folder. "You transferred $8,000 from my checking account to Duke Energy using credentials harvested from keylogger software you installed during a fake virus scan. Would you like me to continue?" The color drained from his face. I didn't wait for an answer. I laid out the evidence the way I'd present findings to executives at Wells Fargo. Methodical, precise, devastating. Blockchain analysis showing $180,000 of my assets traced through 3 cryptocurrency wallets to Silas Romano's exchange account. Pharmacological evidence with pill fragments recovered from my coffee maker matching Ambien prescription in Lachlan's name. IP address logs documenting 47 unauthorized access attempts to my banking, all from Lachlan's devices. "Pattern analysis," I said, sliding another document across the table. "Your operation overlaid against my documented predatory competency, undermining case from 2019. 98% correlation. You studied my work, Lachlan. You just didn't study it well enough." His jaw clenched. The mask was slipping. "Those 3 women," I said. "Camilla Rossi, Iris Bennett, Valeria Fuentes. Want to explain why they're dead?" Lachlan's lawyer put a hand on his arm, warning, but Lachlan couldn't help himself. Those women were dying anyway. His voice turned sharp, mean, alone, confused. I gave them purpose. Their assets funded better uses than nursing homes that would have taken it all anyway. There it was, the truth beneath the professional veneer. "Camilla Rossi wasn't dying," I said, keeping my voice cold and measured. "She had mild arthritis. Iris Bennett had seasonal allergies. Valeria Fuentes volunteered at a library until you convinced her she couldn't remember children's names. You didn't mercy kill the elderly, Lachlan. You murdered functional people for their bank accounts." I slid one final folder across the table. Dr. Corbin's deposition from this morning. He confessed to providing fraudulent diagnoses in exchange for 15% commissions. He's naming every operator he worked with, including the 2 you haven't identified yet. Linda Brennan's in custody. The Romano couple was arrested in Albuquerque 4 hours ago. Your network is finished. Lachlan stared at the folder. His lawyer looked sick. "You think you won?" Lachlan's voice turned vicious. "You're a lonely old woman whose own daughter wanted to lock you away. That part was real, Adeline. Monica couldn't wait to be done with you." The words were designed to hurt. They did. But I'd spent 3 decades dealing with predators who thought cruelty was power. "Monica was manipulated by a professional predator," I said. "She'll recover. You won't." Agent Hughes sensed my rising emotion. Ended the interview. As we stood to leave, Lachlan shouted, "You'll never prove intent on the 3 deaths. You'll never connect me directly." I stopped at the door, turned back. "Lachlan, I spent 32 years building cases prosecutors couldn't lose. I don't need to prove you killed them directly." I smiled for the first time since my birthday. "I just need to prove you established a pattern of predatory behavior that resulted in their deaths. Federal sentencing guidelines do the rest." His lawyer's face went white. So did Lachlan's. My daughter sat in my living room 3 days after Lachlan's arrest. She couldn't look at me. Late afternoon sun came through the windows. Coffee sat untouched on the table between us. Monica had requested this meeting through Agent Hughes. My therapist thought it was too soon. I'd agreed anyway. Some conversations can't wait. "Mom, I don't know how to start." Her voice was barely audible. I believed him. About everything. The overdrafts, the strange emails, the confusion. He showed me statements. "He had your doctor's notes." "Dr. Corbin's fraudulent notes," I said quietly. Monica's face crumpled. "I thought I was protecting you. I thought I was being a good daughter by facing the hard truth that you were declining. He made it seem so obvious, so medically sound." We reconstructed the timeline together. How Lachlan had built his psychological operation on her, piece by piece. Started with small comments about me seeming off. Escalated to showing forged bank statements with confused transactions. Played recordings of me. Edited and taken out of context. Invoked Monica's fear of losing me to dementia like her grandmother had suffered. Positioned himself as the caring professional helping the family through crisis. Isolated Monica from me by suggesting direct questions would agitate my condition. "I called you Mom less," Monica whispered. "I started talking about you in third person like you weren't fully there anymore. I discussed putting you in a facility like you were a problem to solve, not a person, not my mother." The pain in her voice was real, raw. "When he mentioned the 60-40 split," I asked, the question I needed answered, "what did you think you were splitting?" Monica looked up, tears streaming. "He said it was standard estate planning language, that we were protecting your assets from nursing home costs by restructuring them. I swear, Mom, I didn't know he meant stealing from you while you were still alive. I thought I was helping you." Agent Hughes had played her the other recordings. The ones where Lachlan called her the useful idiot and emotional leverage, where he discussed her as an asset he'd cultivated, not a partner. She'd never been a co-conspirator. She'd been a victim, too. Just a different kind. "Monica," I said, choosing my words carefully, "I spent 3 decades investigating financial crimes. I know the difference between a co-conspirator and a victim. You were his victim, too, just not the primary target." "How can you forgive me?" she asked. The question hung between us, heavy, complicated. "I haven't yet," I said honestly, "but I will, because that's what families do when one member is poisoned and another is deceived. We heal together, or we die separately." Monica nodded, wiped her eyes, asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Mom, what happens now? To us?" I had an answer. She wasn't going to like it. "Family therapy, twice a week, for as long as it takes." I paused. "And you're going to help me hunt down the rest of his victims." The federal courthouse in Charlotte holds 400 people. On the day of Lachlan's preliminary hearing, every seat was filled. I took the stand as the prosecution's key witness. Lachlan sat at the defense table, expressionless. His attorney stood, ready to attack. "Ms. Monroe, isn't it true you were diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's by a board-certified neurologist?" The courtroom went quiet. "I was given a fraudulent diagnosis by Dr. Miles Corbin, who has since confessed to providing false medical evaluations in exchange for financial kickbacks. He surrendered his medical license yesterday." The attorney didn't miss a beat. "But at the time of these alleged events, you believed you were experiencing cognitive decline, correct?" "No." I kept my voice steady. I believed someone wanted me to think I was experiencing cognitive decline. There's a difference. The prosecution walked me through my methodology, how I'd traced transactions through banking logs using financial forensic techniques, pattern recognition from my fraud investigation career, blockchain analysis revealing laundered assets through cryptocurrency networks, pharmacological evidence showing how I'd identified chemical cognitive impairment symptoms versus actual dementia. The courtroom watched a PowerPoint we'd prepared, side-by-side comparisons showing Lachlan's victim timeline versus diagnosed dementia onset, asset transfer patterns across 14 victims with identical methods and timing. Dr. Corbin's diagnosis dates correlating perfectly with Lachlan's employment dates. Ms. Monroe, the prosecutor asked, why did the defendant target you specifically? I looked directly at the jury, because I represented his greatest risk and his greatest reward. My professional background meant I had substantial assets and sophisticated financial knowledge. He thought that by neutralizing my cognitive function, he could access everything without triggering the fraud detection systems I'd helped design. He was testing whether his method could defeat an expert. Lachlan whispered urgently to his attorney, first visible crack in his composure. The prosecution introduced 3 families of deceased victims. They described Lachlan's identical pattern in heartbreaking detail: helpful caregiver, gradual isolation, rapid cognitive decline, financial chaos, death. I watched Lachlan's face. No remorse, only calculation. He was still measuring angles, looking for escape routes. As I stepped down from the witness stand, Lachlan's attorney requested a sidebar with the judge. The courtroom buzzed with speculation. 5 minutes of whispered conversation. The judge returned to the bench, made an announcement that stunned everyone. The defendant has requested to make a statement. Lachlan stood, looked directly at me, smiled. Your Honor, I'd like to change my plea. A guilty plea should mean it's over. In Lachlan's case, it meant the game was just changing. The courtroom erupted. Lachlan's attorney looked blindsided. They hadn't discussed this. The prosecutor and Agent Hughes exchanged urgent glances. Something was happening that nobody had planned for. Your Honor, Lachlan said, voice calm and professional, I wish to plead guilty to all federal charges as filed. However, I have information regarding criminal enterprises involving elder exploitation across 17 states, operated by 34 individuals, with estimated damages exceeding $47 million. I am willing to provide full cooperation in exchange for consideration during sentencing. The prosecutor requested immediate recess. Lachlan's attorney protested lack of consultation. Victim families shouted objections. I remained perfectly still, watching Lachlan's performance. He was playing his final card, back room during recess. Agent Hughes briefed me while the prosecutor made phone calls. He's offering to flip on the entire network: names, locations, methods, victim lists, everything. What does he want? I asked. 20 years instead of life without parole, protective custody, witness relocation after serving his term. I felt my hands clench. So he destroys 47 lives, potentially kills 3 people, and gets a retirement plan. Hughes looked tired. Ms. Monroe, with his cooperation, we could take down an organization that's been operating for 8 years. We're talking hundreds of victims we don't even know about yet. The prosecutor asked for my opinion as the case's primary victim and expert witness. I faced an impossible choice. Option A, reject the deal, ensure Lachlan gets maximum sentence, let the network continue operating. Option B, accept the deal, save future victims, give Lachlan reduced sentence. I requested to speak with the 3 victim families present. In a courthouse conference room, we discussed the choice nobody wanted to make. Camilla Rossi's granddaughter spoke first. My grandmother is dead. No deal brings her back. But if this monster's information stops one more family from going through what we did, I can live with 20 years. The others nodded slowly, painfully. I returned to the courtroom, asked to address the judge directly. He allowed it. Your Honor, I spent 32 years in financial crime prevention. I learned that the goal isn't revenge, it's interruption. If Lachlan Graves' cooperation can interrupt this network and save even one person from what I experienced, then I support the prosecution's consideration of a cooperation agreement. The judge nodded solemnly, set sentencing for 3 months out. As the courtroom cleared, Agent Hughes pulled me aside. His expression was troubled. Ms. Monroe, there's something Lachlan mentioned in his proffer that I need to discuss with you privately. He paused. It's about your husband. My husband Walter died 7 years ago. Sudden heart attack at 63, or so I'd been told. FBI conference room. Evening light through the windows. Agent Hughes sat across from me, folder in his hands. Monica beside me for support. Her hand found mine under the table. Ms. Monroe, Hughes began, his voice careful. In his cooperation statements, Lachlan mentioned initiating surveillance on your household in 2018. Your husband was still alive. The room tilted. Walter died in February 2018. Hughes slid a document across the table. Lachlan's journal. The handwriting I'd learned to recognize from all those fake episode reports he'd kept about me. Lachlan documented your household's financial structure months before your husband's death. He noted your husband managed all major financial decisions. He identified this as a barrier to primary target access. I stared at the words, barrier. Like Walter was just an obstacle, just something to remove. Hughes pulled out more documents. Walter's death certificate, autopsy report, Lachlan's journal entries from 2018, death certificate, sudden cardiac arrest, acute myocardial infarction, Lachlan's journal, primary barrier removed, widow now isolated and vulnerable, financial control consolidated, initiation timeline, 18 to 24 months post-grief. Are you saying Lachlan killed Dad? Monica's voice broke. Hughes kept his tone professional, clinical. We're saying there are suspicious correlations that warrant investigation. Your father's death was ruled natural causes, but he had no history of heart disease. He'd passed a cardiac stress test 4 months before his death. Hospital records showed Lachlan Graves worked at the same medical facility where Walter was treated for his heart attack. Memories surfaced, ones I'd buried under 7 years of grief. Walter complaining about feeling dizzy after a hospital visit for routine blood work. Lachlan mentioning he'd met Walter briefly when introducing himself 2 years later. How had I missed that? Walter's symptoms matching what I'd experienced later. Confusion, fatigue, irregular heartbeat. Hughes showed me another document. Lachlan's cooperation files listing elimination methods used by network members when targets had protective barriers, spouses, caregivers who might interfere. Methods included potassium chloride overdose, mimics heart attack, difficult to detect in standard autopsy, insulin manipulation for diabetic victims, medication substitution, replacing heart medication with placebos. Ms. Monroe, I need your permission to exhume your husband's remains for advanced toxicological analysis. Techniques have improved since 2018. If Lachlan's network was involved in Walter's death, we can potentially prove it now. Monica's voice rose, filled with horror. Mom, if Lachlan killed Dad to get access to you 7 years later, that means Dad's death wasn't random. That means I've had Sunday dinners with the man who murdered my father. I looked at her, then at Hughes. My voice came out ice cold. That means Lachlan Graves is more patient and more dangerous than anyone understood. And that means his cooperation deal just became far more valuable because he's going to tell us everything. I signed the exhumation authorization with a steady hand. No hesitation. Walter deserved the truth. So did I. Agent Hughes made a call to the medical examiner, confirmed the authorization, started discussing timelines. He hung up, turned to me. His expression made my blood freeze. Ms. Monroe, Lachlan mentioned there's someone else from his network who's already targeted their next victim, someone we haven't identified yet, and according to his timeline, they're entering the final phase. We had 48 hours to find a victim we didn't know existed, targeted by a predator we couldn't identify, using methods we'd only partially documented. FBI Operations Center, emergency task force assembled, wall covered with network maps, victim profiles, timeline charts, agents moving fast, phones ringing, computer screens glowing. Lachlan appeared via video conference from Federal Holding Facility. His attorney sat beside him, stone-faced. Her code name in our network is Orchid, Lachlan said. Calm, professional, like he was discussing weather. Female, age 68-72, assets exceeding $500,000, located in South Carolina. The operator is someone I trained personally, codename Shepard. He's 3 months into the cognitive decline phase. Guardianship filing is scheduled for next week. Give us real names, Hughes demanded. Lachlan smiled slightly. That's not how the network works. We compartmentalize. I know methods and timelines, not identities. That's why you need me. I took charge, built a target profile using Lachlan's vague information. Age range 68-72. Matches network's preferred demographic. Asset threshold $500,000 plus. Eliminates lower value targets. Location South Carolina. Narrows to 4 major cities. Phase timing 3 months in. Means initial drugging started. Confusion documented. Lachlan had mentioned Orchid was a professional woman. The network preferred targeting educated, successful women. I requested database access. South Carolina guardianship petition filings from the last 90 days. Emergency protective custody requests involving elderly women. Suspicious adult protective services reports. Hospital admissions for sudden cognitive decline in target demographic. Monica worked alongside me for the first time since Lachlan's arrest. Side by side, mother and daughter, hunting predators together. Mom, look, she pointed at her screen. Greenville, South Carolina. Dr. Miles Corbin performed a neurological evaluation there 6 weeks ago, before his arrest. The patient name is sealed because it's part of a guardianship pre-filing, but the date matches Lachlan's timeline. Hughes obtained emergency warrant, unsealed Corbin's recent evaluation records. Patient, Sylvia Kent, age 70. Diagnosis, moderate cognitive impairment, early stage dementia. Recommendation, immediate family supervision, consideration of assisted living. Evaluated at request of her nephew, Caleb Kent, healthcare proxy. Caleb Kent, I said. Shepard is his code name. He used his real last name. Hughes assembled SWAT team. Immediate deployment to Sylvia Kent's residence in Greenville. I stood. I'm coming with you. Ms. Monroe. She won't trust federal agents. She'll think her nephew is protecting her from you. She needs to see someone who survived what she's going through. Hughes studied me, nodded. We were airborne to Greenville within an hour. Monica stayed behind, coordinating with the operations center. Mid-flight, Hughes received a call. His face went pale. He turned to me. Guardianship petition was filed this morning. Emergency hearing scheduled for tomorrow at 9 a.m. Caleb Kent is moving faster than Lachlan predicted. I checked my watch. 6:47 p.m. We had 14 hours. Sylvia Kent's house was dark when we arrived at 9:23 p.m. One light glowed in an upstairs window. We were either just in time or far too late. Residential neighborhood in Greenville. Quiet. Peaceful. FBI vehicles parked 3 houses away. Agent Hughes briefed tactical team while I reviewed Sylvia's profile one more time. Retired accountant, widowed 5 years. 1 nephew. Assets approximately $620,000. No history of cognitive problems until 3 months ago. The timeline matched Lachlan's operation perfectly. Hughes' team entered first, executing welfare check warrant. I followed with protective detail. The house smelled like vanilla and coffee. Normal, domestic, safe, except it wasn't. We found her in the living room, disoriented, frightened, gray hair pulled back in a bun, cardigan buttoned wrong, confusion in her eyes. Caleb Kent sat beside her, holding her hand, playing the concerned caregiver. When agents identified themselves, he performed perfectly. "Thank God you're here. Aunt Sylvia's been having episodes. She called 911 3 times yesterday, claiming someone was breaking in. There was no one. She's been declining for months. I have documentation from her doctor." His voice. So concerned, so caring. Just like Lachlan's had been. Hughes detained Caleb for questioning. I asked for 5 minutes alone with Sylvia. I sat across from her, spoke quietly. "Sylvia, my name is Adeline Monroe. 6 months ago, I was sitting where you are now, confused, scared, convinced I was losing my mind. I wasn't. Someone was taking it from me." Sylvia's eyes filled with tears. "Everyone thinks I'm crazy. Caleb shows them things I did. Charges I don't remember making, emails I don't remember sending. My doctor says I have dementia." "Did Caleb make you special coffee? Special snacks?" Her eyes widened. Recognition. "How did you know?" "Because someone did the same thing to me. They're drugging you, Sylvia, creating confusion so they can take everything you've worked for." FBI agents searched the house with Sylvia's consent. Found it all. Pill crusher hidden in Caleb's bedroom. Ambien prescription in his name. Same method Lachlan used. Keylogger on Sylvia's computer. Fraudulent documents. Power of attorney, revised will, transfer deeds. Recorded conversations of Sylvia's confused episodes. Later analysis showing editing and context manipulation. As agents placed Caleb in custody, he dropped his mask. "You can't prove anything. She's a senile old woman. Who will they believe?" I stepped forward. Close enough he could see I wasn't afraid. "They'll believe the forensic toxicology report showing Ambien in her system from your coffee. They'll believe the keylogger data. They'll believe the 34 other victims your network targeted. And they'll believe me, the financial crime analyst who spent 32 years putting people exactly like you in prison." His face went white. Paramedics evaluated Sylvia for drug residue. She asked me the question I'd asked myself for months. How do I recover from this? How do I trust anyone again? One day at a time, with help, and by helping others recognize what we missed. Caleb Kent was processed into federal custody by midnight. Agent Hughes pulled me aside as we prepared to return to Charlotte. "Ms. Monroe, the exhumation results came back on your husband. You need to sit down for this." The toxicology report was 14 pages long. I only needed to read the first paragraph. FBI conference room, early morning. Monica beside me, Agent Hughes across from us. Medical examiner joined via video conference. The medical examiner's voice was clinical, professional. Each word felt like a knife. Advanced mass spectrometry detected potassium chloride concentrations in cardiac tissue, consistent with acute hyperkalemia induced by external administration. The levels found are incompatible with natural cardiac arrest. Combined with ante-mortem reports of dizziness and confusion, this pattern matches intentional poisoning designed to mimic sudden cardiac death. Translation: Walter was murdered. Monica made a sound, not quite a scream, not quite a sob, just pain-given voice. Hughes presented Lachlan's network communications from 2017-2018, recovered from encrypted servers. November 2017, Monroe target identified, high-value assets, barrier present. January 2018, barrier removal protocol initiated. Hospital access confirmed. February 2018, barrier eliminated. Primary target isolation phase begins 18-month mark. August 2019, Monroe target accepts home care assistance. Operation entering active phase. "Dad was murdered because he was protecting you," Monica whispered, "because Lachlan couldn't get to you while Dad was alive." My voice came out hollow, empty. Walter died thinking he had a heart attack. He died confused and scared, not understanding why his body was failing, and I mourned him thinking it was just bad luck. Hughes explained the legal implications. Lachlan Graves could now be charged with first-degree murder in Walter's death. Changes everything. His cooperation deal, his sentencing, everything. Life without parole or potentially capital punishment. Lachlan's attorney immediately requested renegotiation of cooperation agreement. Lachlan admitted to consulting on Walter's removal, but claimed he wasn't the direct operator. He offered the actual killer's identity in exchange for murder charges being dropped. The prosecution asked me to decide. Accept Lachlan's deal, get the killer, let Lachlan avoid murder conviction, or reject the deal, prosecute Lachlan for murder, lose information on Walter's actual killer. I looked at Walter's photo on my phone, spoke to him like he could hear. You were murdered protecting me. The person who physically did this should answer for it, but the network that ordered it needs to be destroyed completely. I told Hughes, take the deal, get the killer's name, charge them both. Lachlan as accessory to murder, the operator as principal. Let a jury decide if cooperation erases planning someone's death. Hughes made the call. 2 hours later, he had a name, Rebecca Stone, RN, currently working at a senior care facility in Asheville, the same facility where Iris Bennett had died 2 years ago. According to Lachlan, Rebecca had already selected her next target. The coordinated arrests happened at dawn across 17 states, 34 operators, 12 medical professionals, 8 attorneys, 6 financial processors, 1 network completely dismantled. Using Lachlan's cooperation and evidence gathered from Caleb Kent's devices, FBI coordinated simultaneous operations. Rebecca Stone arrested at hospital, charged with Walter's murder, and 2 others. Linda Brennan taken into custody during court hearing. The Romano couple apprehended at cryptocurrency exchange meeting. 28 field operators arrested at their current placements. $4.2 million in assets recovered and returned to victims. Final investigation revealed 47 confirmed victims across 8 years. 3 deaths directly attributed to network: Walter Monroe, Camilla Rossi, Iris Bennett. 4 additional suspicious deaths under review. Estimated total damages, $8.7 million. Lachlan's sentencing day arrived. Federal judge sentenced Lachlan Graves to 35 years in federal prison, reduced from life due to cooperation, as accessory to murder in Walter's death, consecutive 25-year sentence. Total, 60 years. He's 41 years old. The judge's words were measured, final. Your cooperation saved future victims but cannot erase past damage. You will die in prison, Mr. Graves. The only consolation you may take is that your betrayal of your network prevented others from suffering your victim's fate. They asked me to give a victim impact statement. I stood, faced Lachlan one last time. Lachlan Graves didn't just steal money. He stole my husband's life. He stole my daughter's trust. He stole my peace of mind. But what he couldn't steal was my expertise, my resilience, or my determination to ensure no one else experiences what I endured. His greatest mistake wasn't targeting me, it was underestimating me. 1 year later, Monica became my partner in our newly formed nonprofit, Financial Predator Prevention Initiative. We've trained 1,200 healthcare workers, 450 family caregivers, and 89 financial institutions to recognize elder exploitation patterns. I spent months hating myself for not seeing it. Monica told a group of caregivers last week. Now I help other families see it before it's too late. Our nonprofit has accomplished more than I dreamed possible. Created screening protocol adopted by 34 hospitals, established hotline for suspected elder abuse, 1,247 calls in first year, 67 interventions, published training manual distributed to 200 care facilities, lobbied for legislation requiring dual-party authorization for elderly financial transactions over $10,000. I visited Matilda last week. my neighbor who'd whispered that first warning at church. I knew something was wrong, she said. I've lived long enough to recognize when someone's hunting. You saved my life with one whispered warning. Matilda smiled. No, honey. I gave you permission to trust yourself. You did the rest. This morning, I sat in my office reviewing a new case file from the hotline, another potential victim, another predatory caregiver, another family being manipulated. I picked up the phone. Hello, this is Adeline Monroe with the Financial Predator Prevention Initiative. Someone called about concerns for your mother. I'd like to help. You see, I know exactly what you're going through. I survived it, and now I make sure others do too. The fight against predators never ends. It just gains more warriors.